Hello, and welcome to class. My name is Tanya, and I'm your instructor for Psychology 4425, Organizational Development. OD is about helping organizations become more adaptive. That means more able to respond to dynamic and changing environments through planned, systematic interventions that come from the top. It's not about haphazard, sudden change. In this course, we'll be using both conceptual, so that's topic and content-based, and experiential approaches, where the experiential approaches are about engagement and interaction and application. We need to be able to do both well in order to be good OD practitioners. We have a required text, that's Brown's Experiential Approach to Organization Development. It's available from the SMU bookstore. Your assessment in this class is based on 3 components plus bonus points. So quizzes are worth 50%, and those are based on your textbook, while I will be posting these video PowerPoints. The quizzes are exclusively based on your textbook. So if I mention something in a PowerPoint by way of an illustration or an explanation, and it's not in your textbook, then you won't be tested on it. Then the other 50% is made up of group activities and case analyses. In the group activities, you'll be engaging with your classmates, a partner, or your team, and I'm interested in reading your reflections on group process, on the interpersonal dynamics, how you work together. That's kind of mostly the point of that. And then in the case analyses, you'll be applying your knowledge from the textbook to a real-life business problem that an OD specialist might encounter. As you go through your textbook, you'll come across OD applications or little vignettes, like maybe something about Google or Starbucks, and they have questions at the end. And you can answer those questions and submit them to me, and you can do that for up to 5% on your final grade. I would consider each one worth up to 1%. Let's start by going over the syllabus. Please have a read through of this on your own first, and then follow along here as we go through it. So we start out on the first page with my contact information. I'm very happy to meet with you online with a Microsoft Teams meeting for face-to-face check-in or to discuss any questions or concerns you may have. Please send me an email if you have any questions, or post to the Brightspace page. I'm quite available. There is, as I mentioned, a required text, so we're using Brown's 8th edition of the Experiential Approach to Organizational Development, which is available for about, I think it's $75 or $85 from the university bookstore. There is a free version of the 7th edition available online, but it may not be exactly the same, and your quizzes are based on the test bank from the 8th edition. There's a Brightspace page, as you know, where I'll be posting all the lectures and the assignments for each week. There's also a forum for you to post your questions, to post your reflections on the team activities, and for submitting assignments, and where I'll also post grades. So your grade is based on 3 components: a weekly group activity, a quiz, and a case analysis, plus any bonus points that you've earned. So let's start with the teamwork. So there are 6 weekly team assignments. Actually, 2 of them are sort of partnered assignments, and they're each worth 3% toward your final grade. These are OD skill simulations, and they are real-world business simulations that an OD practitioner might encounter. There's a couple of them that are more about demonstrating interpersonal processes. Anyway, the point there is for you to think about group process, because that's really important for an OD practitioner. So the deliverable for each team assignment is a post-2 Brightspace. I've scheduled the group work deadlines to reflect the fact that these would have been in-class activities that we did on Tuesday or Thursday afternoons. You might want to use that time to meet with your partner or your teammates. I have given you instructions here for using Microsoft Teams, which is the video conferencing software that the university supports. On to the quizzes. So, no exams. The reason I do quizzes is because when there's a big midterm and a big final, that makes people kind of leave things a bit to the last minute and cram for an exam, and then research shows us that they tend to forget that very quickly. I'd like to help you spread things out and give you multiple lower stakes assessments, and that's intended to be less stressful for you and to help you keep up with the reading. So I've taken the 16 chapters of the textbook and divided them as evenly as I can across the 6 weeks. That means we're covering about 2 to 3 chapters per week. So each quiz is worth about 8% of your final grade. There are 6 true or false questions, 6 multiple choice questions, and 3 short answer questions. You have up to 1 hour to complete each test. They are open book. All of the quizzes are available immediately on Brightspace, so if you wanted to read the entire book and take all the tests today, you could do that. Use that flexibility to your advantage if you know that you have a busy week coming up, so you could get ahead. In order to help you practice for the quizzes, I recommend that you do the key terms at the end of the chapter and the review questions, and the answers to those are posted in the practice folder that you'll find in the module for each week. Let's move on to the case analyses. So there are 6 weekly case analyses. Each one of them is worth 5% toward your final grade, and they are due by the end of the day on Sunday. You're also free to complete these and submit them early. Just make sure that you've done the accompanying chapter reading, because those case analyses are about applying your knowledge of your chapter to a case. And the purpose of the case is to get you to think like an OD practitioner by diagnosing and making decisions, making recommendations about a situation based on the real examples, I believe. And it's about applying your content knowledge to formulate a plan of action for an organizational problem. So to prepare the case, follow the instructions in the case analysis guidelines that you'll find on the page preceding each case. I've also posted examples of completed cases to Brightspace to give you a model of what I'm looking for. So if week 1 is the first 3 chapters and I've assigned you the first case analysis, then I've also posted the answers to the chapter 2 and 3 cases, so you can see how those should be done. Here's an example of a case analysis. This is the case analysis for Chapter 2, which is not assigned. We're just going to look at it as an example. Before the case in your textbook, you'll have a little explanation of how to do a case analysis. This is actually the 7th edition, so this looks a little different from your textbook. But anyway, so you'd read the case, and then after you've done so and thought through it, you fill in the 1-page case analysis form where you would identify the problems, the causes of the problems, the systems that are affected, the alternatives, and the recommendations. You're probably wondering what that means. So macro problems are problems at the total system-wide leadership or environmental level. These are high-level problems. So something like lack of leadership or direction within the organization. Micro problems are problems at the individual or group levels, or that are specific to a certain department or a given outcome or process. So, for example, an individual's behavior or low morale, bad quality products. Causes are just what you speculate are the causes of the problems you identified. Systems affected. For this, consider the impact of the problems along the 5 components of the socio-technical system. That's something we'll talk about when we go over Chapter 2. That's on page 40 of your textbook. So those are the goals and values subsystems, the structural subsystem, the managerial subsystem, the technical subsystem, and the psychosocial subsystems. Then identify your alternatives, so ideas for possible interventions, and that can actually include doing nothing. And then your recommendation as an OD practitioner to the organization of what should be done and how. So this should all fit on 1 page. Let's quickly look at a worked example. Here's an example of a solved case. This is in your practice folder, and it's essentially what would be the grading key for the 2nd case analysis, or the Chapter 2 case analysis, which is not assigned, but take a look at those so you can see how it's done and what they're looking for. If you've completed your other work, that is the 3 regular deliverables for each week, then you may earn some bonus points, if you like, by completing the OD application activities that you'll come across in the textbook. They are little vignettes about a company, and you read it up and there'll be some questions or activities at the end. And I'm willing to award up to 5% bonus points on your final grade from those, so each one could be up to 1%. Now let's discuss the timetable. Deadlines keep us all on track, so please adhere to them. Send me an email if something comes up, and we can book a meeting to talk about it. There is room for flexibility, but I would like us to try to get through this together on schedule. So here is the schedule, and the way it works is that there are 6 weeks of class. I've divided the 16 chapters of the textbook as evenly as I can across those weeks, so that means that we're covering 2 to 3 chapters per week. And then we have team activities that are due by the end of the day every Thursday, so you have until 11:59 p.m., so it's until the stroke of midnight. Sometimes there's an initial step that has to be done before, and then that would be due on Tuesday. The quizzes are due on Fridays, and the case analyses are due on Sundays. you have the option of getting the quizzes and case analyses done ahead of time if you are ahead with your readings. I'd like for you to be set up for success. So if there's any support you need, for instance, accommodations, then I would like you to connect with student services to make sure everything's in place. And I can do that for you through a referral. Otherwise, I'm sure they'd be happy to connect with you directly. I value your feedback. I'd like this class to be a good and useful experience for you. At the end of the course, there's an opportunity to provide feedback in the form of those student ratings of instruction. Those are great for me to tweak the course for the next cohort of students, the next time I offer the class. Please don't hesitate to share your feedback, your comments or suggestions with me as they arise. I appreciate the discussion, and very often I can take some immediate action to improve your experience. Let's jump into the content. In part 1, we'll cover chapters 1 to 3. Chapter 1 will define OD and discuss its background. In chapter 2, we'll talk about renewal and the socio-technical systems approach to OD. That's the lens that I'd like you to apply in your case analyses. And then in chapter 3, we'll discuss organizational culture and the role it plays in changing an organization.